Namaste, hello and welcome back to another video on Hamsavahini, Vajraasthra. I'm Awhona and today's video is going to be about my wrap up for Randomathon Round 2, which was a food-based readathon which was created and hosted by Macy from The Bright Side Girl. I'll leave a link to all her announcement videos and other related videos in the description box below as well as in the overhead cards above. So do please join me further in this video. So now let's come around to the books which I managed to complete within the span of this readathon. And the first book which I read was Chaat by Emma Davis. And I did start off this book a little early, but then I'm very happy that I've been able to get my hands on this book. Now, Emma Davis is an Irish author, and she traveled to India for some work. And here she tried to capture the everyday sights and sounds of the Indian streets as well as the Indian street food culture very beautifully within this short collection of poems, and they are absolutely nostalgic and they will give you an authentic feel of what street food culture in India is like. Now, chaat is a very famous Indian street food as well as an Indian snack which you can have at any point of time, and in fact it's one of my favorites too, and I absolutely love the way and the vibrancy with which the Indian street food has been portrayed in this particular collection of books. So collection of poems, I'm sorry. So I did absolutely enjoy this, and I believe it was a 4-star read for me. Now the next book which I read was Sita's Kitchen by Raghav Khanna. And this was a very beautiful story about the journey of a young cook from the Indian hillside village to becoming a chef at a very famous London restaurant. And the journey and her choices, which makes her different from all the trained chefs within London, is something which is very beautifully portrayed by the author. And even though the story is is filled with challenges, let's say, the tone in which it is written is very gentle and it's almost like flowing water. So I love the journey which this little Indian girl makes, and the story goes as in the there's this little girl who is 10 years old, and her name is Sita, of course, and she has just recently lost her mother, and she's helping her father, who is deaf and mute, to in a tea stall, and she doesn't go to school yet, but then one day there is this Italian couple. The woman is actually pregnant, and the man borrows her father's tea stall stove for a while, and he cooks up an Italian meal which is absolutely fascinating for Sita. And seeing Sita's interest and the fact that she is actually a small little girl who's helping out in her father's tea stall, the Italian man actually gifts her a book on Italian cooking on the spot, and this encourages Sita to join school, read English, understand the scope of the book which has been gifted to her by this Italian couple, and she finally manages to master these recipes, and also she has a backup of online videos which she accesses, and finally she's confident enough and she opens her new a stall of Italian, or an Italian cafe. It's not a stall, it's a small little Italian cafe at the same place, and upgrades her father's tea stall to an Italian cafe, which is accidentally discovered by a very famous London restaurant owner who has Indian origins, and he's blown away by the authenticity of the Italian as well as the Indian mix of the dishes, and he manages to convince Sita to and her father to come to London and work at his restaurant. Sita does agree because of course she wants a very good life and she really wants to succeed as a chef, but then her journey from a small cook to a small cafe cook to a chef at a well-known restaurant is what the story is all about. So I absolutely loved it, and it was definitely a 4-star read for me. And of course, you will find my Goodreads review in the description box below as well. Now, the next book which I did read was one of my favorites, which is Joanna Harris's Chocolat. And of course, I don't really need to mention much about this book. It was definitely a 4-star read for me, and it gives a very beautiful side of two extremes trying to mingle together. Of course, there will be challenges, but then the flow of life is more important. And of course, there is rigidity of rules and regulations, but then the flow of life and the laughter as well as the cheer in life should never fade. And this is demonstrated very well by our main protagonist, Vian Rocha, who comes into town with her daughter, and this is a very small town in France, in the outskirts of France, or the countryside of France, and she always wanted to settle down in the countryside. She opens her own chocolate shop, and she's a chocolatier, and she creates these wonderful dishes, but then her chocolate confectionery shop is seen as a threat by the revenant, who is actually trying very hard to shepherd all the people of the town into a very strict discipline, and that creates a barrier. So it's almost the entire town being divided into an army of which goes to the church or which goes to the chocolate shop, and there are some people who are in between. There are also gypsies who manage to support the chocolate shop more, and there is love, there's laughter, there is also rigidity, there are rules within the Revenant's church walls, and it's a beautiful story. I absolutely fell in love with it, and I will be continuing with the next part, which is Lollipop Shoes, which is a continuation of Chocolat. So this was a 4-star read for me, and I have posted my Goodreads review in this. Yes, I have posted the link to my Goodreads review for this book in the description box below. Now, the next book which I read was Lucy Parker's Battle Royal, and this was a enemies to lovers rom-com, and it was absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed reading the battles between these two rivals. So we have Sylvia, and we have her rival, who are I believe his name was Dominic. Yes, her rival is Dominic, and they are both bakers, and they have shops which face each other on a street, and they are actually rivals. So Sylvia's shop is everything to deal with sparkling glass edible art, as well as sparkling tones to her cakes, and full of creativity and fun, whereas Dominic's cakes are all austere and every shade of white. So it's white and black, but it's more of white. So both of them meet at a food contest, and there Sylvia is actually a contestant, but she is thrown out of the contest because of mishap in the cake which she was trying to build, and unfortunately, the unicorn, which was supposed to be a mechanized device within the cake creation, actually blows off and hits Dominic, who is one of the judges, a square on his face, which is absolutely a hilarious event, but it's a memorable event, and that makes Dominic kick out Sylvia from the contest. However, after a few years, it is Sylvia who has mastered her art of baking and creating edible sugar creations, which are almost glass-like, and she has opened a shop which is exactly opposite to Dominic's shop, and both of them are rivals, and they are like enemy zones, but then they are brought together by a common goal, wherein they are invited to each they are both invited to make a cake for the royal wedding, which is supposed to happen, and they get closer, and then things start happening from there. So it's a very interesting read, and I believe this was a 4-star read for me. And of course, you will find the link to my Goodreads review in the description box below, and there goes my book. And the next book which I read was Measuring Up by Lilly, LaMotte and Anzu, and this was a very cute little graphic novel about this Taiwanese girl and her family who immigrate from Taiwan to the US. I believe they immigrate to Seattle, and this little girl wants to bring her grandmother, whom she's very close to, and give a surprise to her father, who is actually missing his mother a lot. And she, on her grandmother's 70th birthday, she wants all of them to be together, but the flight tickets being too expensive, her father will not be able to afford to bring her grandmother to the US. So this little girl decides to participate in a cooking contest, and the prize money will be exactly sufficient to book a ticket for her grandmother from Taiwan to Seattle. So this is what the story is all about. So we deal with everything. We deal with cultures which are mingling with each other, and what this girl faces when she comes to the US, how she's accepted, and the entire cuisines which she explores, along with one of her contestants, or her let's say contestant partners, who is very good in Italian cooking, and what all things that she explores. So it's a very beautiful book, and it's very the illustrations are absolutely cute, and I absolutely loved it. Now, the next book which I read was Cappuccinos, Cupcakes, and Corpse, and this was a cozy small town mystery, and it had this main protagonist Francesca, who has just recently lost her mother, and she's come back to her small town from New York, where she was working before, and she was ditched by the man whom she really was very serious about, and she's heartbroken as well, and she's dealing with grief, and she's working in her coffee shop, which has been running for generations in her family, and it is the best coffee shop within the town. And she comes back to work to handle this coffee shop and get it running again, and she notices that her next door neighbor is has also passed away, and it is finally discovered that he was murdered. So this next door neighbor was her childhood friend, and his father has been murdered, and she tries to get together with this childhood friend of hers, and tries to solve this mystery so that she can actually help out her community in trying to find out who the actual culprit was, because there are darker intentions of this culprit which could take the town in a swing. So this is what this entire story is all about, and I believe this was a 3.5-star read for me. There was also a manga series which I started. Of course, I didn't finish it because there were around 10 parts to this series. I just read one part, and I am yet to complete the rest of the parts. But this was Kakuriyo, and this is actually a very interesting book, because it's about this girl who can actually see spirits and demons and the dead, and her grandfather trains her so that she's not perturbed, or she's not scared. And then what she does is, she's very good at cooking, so whenever there's a spirit or a demon which tries to approach her, she tries to give it food and satiate its hunger so that they don't eat her in turn. Now, her grandfather, who has recently passed away, also had given her a warning that never offer food to an ogre, and unfortunately one day she hears an ogre crying, and forgets what her grandfather had warned her about, and she offers food to this ogre, and the ogre immediately captures her and whisks her away to the demon world. Now this in the demon world, there's a hierarchy of demons, and this ogre is a very well-known demon, and he has his own food restaurant, and which specializes in human food, and it's not really running very well. So she tries to ensure that she can start cooking, because there is a debt which her grandfather had with this particular ogre, and according to the debt, he was supposed to give the hand of his strongest granddaughter to this ogre who can see the spirit world and who can live in the spirit world along with him. And so she has to marry this ogre. So she doesn't want to do that, and she plans to work in this restaurant creating human dishes so that she will be able to clear this debt and escape back into the human world. But there are many challenges which she has to face, and there are many demons and spirits who do not like humans and who do not want their food to be cooked by humans. So how she overcomes these challenges is what the series is all about. It's a very nice and a very creative series, and that was next on my list, and I believe this was a 4-star read for me, and I have written my opinions about this book in the Goodreads review. There's also another book which I read. In fact, I could not read it completely, but I did watch the equivalent manga show for it, and this was by Campfire Cooking Skills, and this follows this man who has been summoned from the human world to another world because he's got this skill set, and his skill set is grocery shopping and cooking. So he starts grocery shopping and cooking in the other world and collects many people or many hunters around him. He's on a move from one country to another so that he can explore this other world, and he realizes that his normal cooking is very delicious for people from the other world, and he finally finds the favor and grace of one of the very few magical creatures who only wants him to cook, and he becomes his familiar, and he not only protects this man, but he also travels with him. So this is a journey about this man and his cooking, as well as a skill in grocery shopping, and how he manages to satiate not only his familiar but also travel and help other towns during his journey. So it's absolutely a very beautiful book, and I have watched this entire series because I did not have time to read this book, but yes, I'll be continuing with the book later on, but that was one of my last reads. So those are the few books which I managed to complete for this readathon. I absolutely loved and enjoyed it, and I love the Instagram challenges as well. I have tried to append all the Instagram challenges which I have participated in the description box below, should you like to cross-check with them, because they were very creative and fun. And thank you, Macy, for coming up with such a brilliant idea, and I hope we will have more rounds of Randomathon with your creative ideas with them as a theme for our reading. So with that, I'll be wrapping up this video. I will be back next week with another video. So till then, take care, have a good reading week ahead, and namaste.